The 2020 California wildfire season is a series of ongoing wildfires that are burning across the state of California right now, and it is intense. It is out of control. The peak of the wildfire season usually occurs between July and November, when hot, dry winds are most frequent, and I'm telling you right now, it is insane. The ridge of high pressure is nuts. The wildfire season typically does not end until the first significant rainstorm of winter, which is usually around October in Northern California, and roughly between early November to December in Southern California, which is a dangerous mix considering how far along these fires have come so far. Early in the year, there was a concern for the potential 2020 fire season to be prolonged and especially grave due to the unusual dry months of January and February, one of the driest such periods of any calendar year on record, and believe me, it has been exactly that. On March 22nd, a state of emergency was declared by California Governor Gavin Newsom due to a mass die-off of trees throughout the state, potentially increasing the risk of wildfires. Well, yeah. However, throughout March and April, rain began to consistently fall in the state, which alleviated the drought conditions. However, Northern California was expected to have severe wildfire conditions due to the moderate or severe drought conditions in the area, whereas Central and Southern California were expected to have some serious fire conditions later in the year due to the late wet season and precipitation. The 2018 wildfire season was the deadliest and most destructive wildfire season ever recorded in California, with a total of, and get this, 8,527 fires burning in the area of 1.8 million acres, the largest area of burned acreage recorded in the fire season at the time, according to the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, aka CAL FIRE, and the NIFC. As of December 21st through the end of August 2018, CAL FIRE alone spent $432 million on operations. Overall, the fires cost at least $26 billion in property damage and firefighting costs, with $16.5 billion of the costs alone being property damage from the destruction. The 2020 California wildfires surpassed the 2018 season in having the largest area of burned land on record. Holy fuck. In mid-July to August 2018, a series of large wildfires erupted across California, mostly in the northern part of the state, including the destructive Carr Fire and the Mendocino Complex. On August 4, 2018, a natural disaster was declared in Northern California due to the extensive wildfires burning there. It's nuts. The Carr Fire, and that's C-A-R-R fire, in July and August 2018 caused more than $1.5 billion in property damage. The Mendocino Complex Fire burned for more than 500,000 acres, becoming the largest complex fire in the state's history, with the Complex Ranch Fire surpassing the Santiago Canyon Fire of 1889 to become California's single largest recorded wildfire. In November 2018, strong winds aggravated conditions in another round of large destructive fires that occurred across the state. This new batch of wildfires included the Woolsey Fire. The campfire destroyed the town of Paradise and killed at least 85 people, with one still unaccounted for as of August 2nd, 2019. Like, that's insane, man. The campfire destroyed more than 18,000 structures, becoming both California's deadliest and most destructive wildfire on record. Dispatchers struggle to manage overwhelmed resources in California wildfires. When people think about 911 dispatchers, they usually think about people with headsets sitting in a high-tech command center, surrounded by blinking lights and big computer screens, calmly and coolly coordinating between calls and emergency responders, then moving on to the next emergencies. But there are other sorts of incidents, those that don't go away in a day or two or even a week, and other challenges that dispatchers can face, challenges that have come to the forefront with the recent wildfire conflicts in Northern California. Even the best fire services get blindsided by a fire of this magnitude. A combination of major fire outbreaks with the immediacy of threats to hundreds of thousands of civilians has shown some of the pressures dispatchers face in rural areas that have experienced rapid population growth. Staffing is something of a black art for all emergency services dispatch centers. Since emergencies, by definition, are somewhat unpredictable, 911 dispatch centers are staffed according to formulas based on historic call levels, but also often build in elaborate fallback arrangements with other public safety access points to handle overflow volumes. California, the most populous state in the country, has a massive urban interface problem, as well as terrain and climate that twist together into a pyromaniac's wet dream of combustible fuel loads, shrieking Santa Ana winds, and minimal rainfall. The combination is made for fast and horrific wildfires dating back as long as records have been kept, since the early 1930s at least. CAL FIRE is the largest and most robust state wildland firefighting agency in the country, and both crews and dispatchers are well practiced when it comes to responding to the state's typical array of wildfires each year. CAL FIRE crews respond to an average of 5,600 wildfires each year, covering more than 172,000 acres. But the Napa Valley fires, later collectively labeled the LNU complex fires, pushed the CAL FIRE and local department dispatchers to their breaking point. Windstorms led to a wave of emergency calls. The Napa and Sonoma County PSAPs, under the operation of the Napa Police Department and the Sonoma County Sheriff, were inundated with calls. Responsible for a patchwork of local communities, cities, and unappropriated areas, fire calls may be dispatched directly or relayed to other dispatchers in the area, including the CAL FIRE LNU Emergency Command Center. To make a long story short, California fire resources have been stretched to their limits, and it's an ongoing issue.
The smoke is very thick and the burn scars here are still very fresh. Take a look over here. This is what's left of a house right off of Simmons Road. That's on the eastern side of Lake Oroville here, right off Highway 162. And this is one of the areas that was actually evacuated. And the reason that it was evacuated is that this fire was moving very fast and it was very windy. Take a look. With smoke so thick, it's difficult to see, but boats are still floating at Bidwell Canyon Marina, and California's first mother orange tree is still standing next to the historic Bidwell Bridge. But it's a much different story playing up on Highway 162. There is a reason these roads are shut down here. Oh my gosh, they're so hard to see. There's fire everywhere. Burn scars cover the hillside all along the eastern edge of Lake Oroville. Oof. Flames are not far. Up Simmons Road, homes in a tree-covered neighborhood are on fire. So these house fires are really random in this area. You'll find houses like this on fire down the road, and then just up the road, you'll find houses untouched by the flames. Intermittent winds intensify the fire. This time-lapse video shows just how fast the flames can burn through a home. Fire crews spread out in an attempt to put out flames and create a fire line as wildlife of all kinds flee the area.
Getting really close.
Further down Simmons Road, water hoses were left around the home, but with weak water pressure, our efforts were minimal to get the ground wet. With each gust of wind, Phil Nye watches as brush piles near his home of 18 years burn like matches.
Seems pretty safe here, you know, and got everything very cleaned up around here. And
Fire crews keep a close eye, but Phil went to great lengths this spring to create defensible space around his home.
So this doesn't worry you at all, like it's pretty close.
nah, it could be okay.
Phil ignored evacuation orders. Defensible space or not, the fire on Simmons Road is dangerous and unpredictable.
Drought in the United States is similar to that of other portions of the globe. Below normal precipitation leads to drought, which is caused by an above-average persistence of high pressure over the drought area. Increased drought frequency is expected to be one of the effects of global warming. The worst droughts in the history of the United States occurred during the 1930s and 1950s, periods of time known as the Dust Bowl years, in which droughts led to significant economic damage and social changes. In particular, relief and health agencies became overburdened and many local community banks had to close. The U.S. Drought Monitor provides a national database to track the duration and severity of droughts in the United States. Hosted by the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, with assistance from the United States Department of Agriculture and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, their standardized measurements track droughts on a severity level from abnormally dry to exceptional, which is pretty much two sides of the same coin. Certain regions within the United States are more susceptible to droughts than others. Droughts can be more damaging than tornadoes, tropical cyclones, winter storms, and flooding combined, which is insane. Unlike a hurricane, tornado, or flooding, the onset of droughts happens gradually over a long period of time. Yup. When California suffered a severe drought from 1985 to 1991, a California company called Sunbelt Water Incorporated was established for the purposes of importing water from Canada in marine transport vessels formerly used to transport oil and convert it into water carriers. Some 6 miles above Oregon's Cascade Mountains, water vapor condenses around a speck of dust and forms ice crystals in the clouds. These start to fall, sticking together in the complex cluster of a snowflake that floats down the mountain. With the ground temperature below freezing, the snowflake settles gently beside one of the state's iconic Douglas firs, a delicate but vital contribution to the season's snowpack. Countless snowflakes have fallen before it, and countless more will cover it, creating a vast store of frozen water that will melt with the arrival of warmer weather. For Oregon, the true value of the winter snowpack comes in the summer when the water is released precisely when it's needed the most. But increasingly for Oregon, the billion-dollar question is, will the snowpack bring enough water at the right time? Snowpack, which is the snow that collects and stays frozen on mountains for months, is a natural water reservoir made up of multiple compacted layers from many different snowfalls. The depth of the snowpack is determined by the amount of snowfall and the influence of temperature and wind. With the right conditions, snowpack can accumulate at depths of 10 feet or more, releasing between 1 and 1.5 inches of water for every foot of snow. This snowmelt flows down the mountain, forming creeks, streams, and rivers that wind their way across Oregon, delivering a steady supply of water through the dry summer and into the fall. But Oregon's snowpack is declining. Less snowpack means less water, and less water brings big problems. Coming back to Canada, drought once again affected Alberta in the early 21st century, starting in 1999 and lasting until 2004. The drought during this period was felt across North America, mostly the western United States, western Canada. We're talking Washington, Oregon, Alberta, California. The drought during 2001 and 2002 was devastating to Alberta. Net farm income was zero in Alberta in 2002. And the drought had cost the Canadian economy $5.8 billion, making it one of Canada's most costly natural disasters. Farmers abandoned their farms and 41,000 jobs were lost across the country. Alberta has experienced some not-so-recent droughts in 2009 and 2010. In 2009, the drought mostly affected central Alberta in the Palliser's Triangle region. The region experienced the smallest amount of precipitation in the past 50 years, and 10 counties declared states of emergency. Woo! Moving westwards, the BC government has issued a warning about persistent drought conditions across much of the province. Among the regions most affected by low water levels and dry riverbeds is Vancouver Island. The eastern part of the island from Greater Victoria to the North Campbell River is currently among the most drought-prone regions in the province. Eastern Vancouver Island is currently categorized at drought level 3, which is very dry, while the remainder of the island is at drought level 2, which is just moderately dry. Drought level 2 conditions are also reported in the lower Fraser areas, in the east and west Kootenay valleys. So to make another long story short, most of Alberta and British Columbia, actually almost all of British Columbia, are at a high risk of just combustion in general.
It has been another day of smoke-filled skies up and down the West Coast. Air quality across most of the state of Oregon ranges from unhealthy to hazardous, and in the Mid-Valley, the air is so bad at times it's been off the charts.
Wildfire smoke is like tobacco smoke without the nicotine.
Dr. John Balmes is an expert on the impact of wildfire smoke on your health, and right now he's worried about days upon days of hazardous air quality in Oregon.
The more days in a row we have bad air, there's a cumulative effect that we're concerned about.
It's especially concerning for people with underlying health and heart conditions like asthma, COPD, and heart disease. But this dangerous, smoky air impacts everyone.
COPD can be exacerbated, and asthma definitely can be exacerbated by wildfire smoke. There's an increased risk for lower respiratory tract infections too, and that actually affects everybody, even healthy people.
Wildfire smoke can irritate your lungs, cause inflammation, affect your immune system, and make you more prone to lung infections, including the virus that causes COVID-19.
An estimated 46 million people were exposed to the wildfire smoke from 2004 to 2009 in the western United States. Evidence has demonstrated that wildfire smoke can increase levels of particulate matter in the atmosphere. Yeah. The EPA has defined acceptable concentrations of particulate matter in the air through the National Ambient Air Quality Standards, and now monitoring of ambient air quality has been mandated. Due to these monitoring programs and the incidence of several large wildfires near populated areas, epidemiology studies have been conducted to demonstrate an association between human health effects and an increase of fine particulate matter due to wildfire smokes. No doubt, right? The EPA has defined acceptable concentrations of particulate matter in the air. The National Ambient Air Quality Standards are part of the Clean Air Act and provide mandated guidelines for pollutant levels and the monitoring of ambient air quality. Such studies have demonstrated an association between negative human health effects and the increase in fine particulate matter due to wildfire smoke. The size of the particulate matter is significant, as smaller particulate matter is easily inhaled to the human respiratory tract. Often small particulate matter can be inhaled deep into lung tissue, causing diseases. While the size of particulate matter is an important consideration for health effects, the chemical composition in the particulate matter from wildfire smoke should also be considered. Studies have demonstrated that the chemical composition of 2.5 parts per million from wildfire smoke can yield different estimates of human health outcomes as compared to other sources of smoke. health outcomes for people exposed to wildfire smoke may differ from people exposed to smoke from alternative sources such as solid fuels. So in conclusion, smoking cigarettes while sitting in traffic can be just as dangerous as inhaling the smoke from wildfires, which is crazy.